All right, and we're back.
Yeah.
Yes. Live Q&A.
We can clip it. That's right.
All right. So into part 2, why don't we give?
Yes.
This is good stuff. I'm really enjoying this series. We had 2 questions come in.
Okay.
First question. This is a good one. This is a really good practical one. So what's your take on tithing when one spouse isn't a believer? And this person said, I asked them what they thought about it, and they said, I don't know. And then so they just gave anyways. So
yeah, I think, again, going back to the common grace aspect of it, I think if you have a unbelieving spouse and a believing spouse, and the believing spouse says, hey, and tries to convince them and helps them understand, look, I believe this is going to benefit us no matter what. Whether you believe it or not, I believe that this is a principle in life that is going to be beneficial to us no matter whether you acknowledge God in it or not. That gives the believer the opportunity to do what they believe is right and follow what God says. And I believe a lot of times, even when Peter and Paul talk about spouses, in terms of a house like that, there's a lot of sense of making peace. So if there's a conflict, an active conflict, I always tell people, ask them what they're willing to let you give, and take that for what it is and allow God to continue to use it. If they're willing to let you give anything. If at all possible, if it causes so much strife, then I think, as Peter and Paul would say, keep peace in the home and allow that to be peace. But you should have the conversation. That's just me. I think you should definitely have it.
Yeah.
And if this person's like, I guess so, then do it.
Yeah.
And allow the benefit to maybe for the spouse, whoever the unbelieving spouse is, to maybe witness and see that God can and will.
And a lot of the aspects of generosity we've been talking about, a lot of the things that happen when you choose to be generous, it's not exclusive to spiritual giving. It could be stuff, let's say sure, but I don't want to give to a church.
Right.
Okay,
right.
I would like to do that. Maybe it's a first step that you can give towards a local charity, or maybe you can do whatever.
Right.
And maybe you can build that into your family, and as you're doing that, maybe we can shift some of our, I think going back to what you said, I think the conversation is most important.
We're talking about that next week, but if there's a church hang up, then do it anyway. Do it somewhere else, and let the church thing grow and happen. So
that's
I'm
good.
with you.
All right, question number 2. We might have to suss this one out a little bit. What about judging who is worthy of our generosity? Like being able to tell that person deserves our money more than that person, or that church, or this organization, or this is better than this one. How do we go about that, or how do we deem what is more worthy of our generosity than others?
Okay.
Whether it's people or organizations or whatever. That's tough.
That's a tough one. I would say, if you follow biblical principles, then your first fruit, your tithe, those are things that we believe go to the storehouse. They go to the temple.
Right.
They go to the church. We believe that's a part of it. So find a church that you're grateful for and trust, and give it to them. And I believe that's part of what we're called to do in terms of giving it back to God. When it comes to what we would call offering, when it comes to something in terms of generosity above and beyond that amount, I believe at that point, you're going to want to trust some discernment that the Spirit's going to give you. In terms of, and this is going to have to be where you walk closely with Him in a relationship with Him. Because if you don't have it, you're going to experience that loss I talked about. Like there might be that kind of grieving of giving that money because you don't trust or you don't know. And part of it is you're doing it out of, and I think sometimes if you do it out of obligation, it's hard. But you're called to release. You're not ever responsible for what someone does with it. Matter of fact, Jesus, in Hebrews, the writer of Hebrews tells us that the tithe, even the tithe in the church, is received by mortal men, but Jesus Himself receives it in heaven. So it's kind of like even people that have struggled with churches, and we'll talk about that next week, is like, look, it's handled by men, like broken men, people that could do something weird with it, like you don't know, but your call is to release it because Jesus is the one who receives it. So I look at it the same way. When I give money to a person that I'm not sure if they're a scam artist or whatever,
sure.
When I do that, my temptation is to want to judge and figure that out, but sometimes I feel a discernment in me just to do it, and my role is to release it. Yep. My role is to release it, not to control what happens.
Yeah,
so I don't know.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is like, I think it has everything to do with realizing that generosity is not about control.
That's
right?
true, yeah.
It's not about how or what is done with my generosity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's one thing to being responsible.
Yes.
Like, sure, you want
to vet
like you want to make
yeah,
sure what
yeah.
you're giving to is and not just like I'm talking like organizationally.
Yes.
Like, sure, that's why we put our budget online. That's
Yep.
why most churches will put their budget online,
Yep.
be transparent to a certain
Yep.
degree. That's why, when you're talking with someone, I don't think it's wrong to like talk about what they really need. You
Yep.
know what I mean? And process through that with them. But ultimately, like, let's say you do give money to someone, you feel burned because they
Right.
didn't really need it, or you feel tricked or duped or whatever.
Right.
That's more of a pride thing, and that's
Yes.
okay.
I'm
I'm
with
not
you.
saying
Yeah.
it's wrong to
Yeah.
feel that way, because I've had it happen to me. But at the same time, it's not something we should
The
feel
temptation
like.
will be that way, yeah.
Yeah, we shouldn't feel like, oh, I was a really bad steward. Like, no, if you feel God tell you
Yeah.
to give X to someone or X to whatever situation, I mean, your job is to be faithful. Your
That's
job
right.
is to take
That's
the next
exactly
right
right.
step, and that's it.
Yep.
You know?
Very good.
Awesome. Well, we want you guys to join us next week for part 3 of Investors and Consumers. We'll see you then.
Thanks, guys.